The Big Al Podcast with your host, Al Bishop, unfiltered and uncut.
Righty, welcome ladies and gentlemen. Today I've got the massive champ Demarte Pena with me. Unfortunately, we have to talk about some strange things that have happened to you in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you very much for your time and thanks for joining us and giving us the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure, bro.
Cool, man. Well, Demarte, let's jump into it. Obviously, the main ground we want to cover is regarding your case that came up. Us fans and everybody else found out a little while ago. That you popped or failed the test with SAIDs, and then it came out that everything had been eradicated with supplements and so on.
Yeah.
So obviously with these kind of things, there's a couple of schools of thought, and everyone's kind of jumping, and you're getting called out on social media, and there's memes, and it's this and it's that. So I want to kind of get your side out and maybe get a couple of people to listen to the reality of the situation that not only yourself, that athletes are facing, competing at these levels, and basically just iron out any grey areas that people maybe not really understanding what really happened.
Yeah.
So if we can start, maybe let's look at the process. This was referring to your fight with Urshad back in November last year.
Yeah, so the 11th, yeah.
So you were notified. When were you notified? It was an in-competition test, obviously.
Yes, so after the fight, on the 11th in Cape Town, I got tested after the fight, and I've been tested, I think, since my fight with Leo Gloss back in 2011. So I've been tested in competition, and I've been tested out of competition. So it wasn't something that I wasn't aware of that it was going to happen. So I knew exactly that I was going to get tested again in this fight. So after the fight, then I won the fight, and I mean nothing out of the normal. So then this year on the 15th of Feb, Graham called me. I was actually in the gym. He called me and he told me that what had happened, that there was I got flagged for testosterone, which was, my ratio was higher than what they flag you for. So I thought it was a complete joke, obviously. I knew I was going to get tested. Now I'd like to believe that I'm a smart guy, and I don't think I would put my career at risk and using this kind of stuff. So I thought he was joking, and I thought, no, man. Then I said, okay, cool. He said sent EFC through Caro and Anin through SAMMA that report. Then they sent me an email which I didn't see. So Graham called me and said, look, check your email. So after check my email, I was completely shocked. I thought, geez, I didn't know what to do. It's a complete, there's a guideline through SAIDs and the rules that they follow. Now I needed to find out, what am I going to do? Who's going to represent me? And how can I prove my innocence? Because clearly I knew that I hadn't taken anything that I was aware of that was banned.
Sure. And just to jump in there, Demarte, there's obviously, if someone listening to this has never really taken the time to understand the process, there's just two things I want to get through there. The in competition and out of competition. So in competition, basically, as well, I understand it's within a couple of hours of your fight, either before or after.
Yeah. With
that being said, you can't always give a urine sample straight after your fight, but you'll be chaperoned. There's guys who will not be on your side.
So basically, I think from what I can recall now, in competition, I think it's 12 hours before the competition,
sure,
and a few hours after. So you can get tested in that specific time. So that's what's considered in competition. And there's some substances that you're allowed to take out of competition, and those same substances are not allowed in competition.
Sure.
Like weed, the thing that happened now with Madiba. So
there's quite a long list of things. There's even everyone, and I'm sure it'll come up, will be the Cole Henning case, the same substance that he got caught for in competition. He's not banned out of competition.
It's a stimulant,
yeah. So there are a lot of those factors. So just so people understand exactly what we're talking about there. So that being said, you were flagged in competition, and then there's another specific point there that I just want to point out is that SAIDS, which is the regulatory body that does all the testing for South Africa in all general sports.
Through WADA, yeah.
Yes, they have actually nothing to do with the EFC in essence. So they'll flag you, they'll send the information to MMA South Africa, and MMA South Africa will then let EFC know. So it's quite a process, and I don't think people, and that part for me is very important, and I don't think people realize that as well. That's the first point.
And when you have the actual hearing, it's an independent panel.
Yes.
And when I had the hearing, they didn't know who I was.
Sure.
So there was a doctor and the chair and another president of I think the table tennis of South Africa.
Sure.
And there was another sports doctor, Rob Collins, and Cornelius was a guy from UP. So people that have no idea what EFC is, and you go there and they follow the guidelines that are given through SAID. So there's no under the table deals or the sorts, and they have many hearings with many sportsmen on a weekly basis, from cycling to MMA to dancing as well. So they don't care; they just follow the rules, and that's what we had to abide by.
Sure. Okay. We're gonna get deeper into that side of it now. So let's go from there. So you were flagged. You obviously knew to yourself that there's something wrong here. There's something not right. What was your next step from there?
So for the next few days, what I wanted to make sure that I could get someone that could represent me on the day and who could assist me to get to the bottom of this. And it took me about 3 to 4 days to actually find someone that was aware of the SAIDS process, because I have quite a few friends that are lawyers, but they are litigation lawyers and criminal lawyers. So they had no idea how this process works. So then, luckily, I managed to find somebody that was aware of how this process works, and I got hold of this lady, and she explained to me how the SAIDS process works and the rules and regulations. And we had a few options. So the first option was, do you test sample B? So when you have an actual test, you pee in 1 cup, then you pour that same pee into A and the same one into B. So the chances of B coming different are so slim. And because I was also sponsored at the time by Biogen, and I had taken supplements all my career, which is not illegal to do. You are allowed to take supplements. Obviously, bear in mind that the substance present on the bottle itself is not prohibited, which I'd done. Then she advised me that if you do a sample B, straight away EFC would have to announce that you got flagged for a violation.
Okay.
So that's how the rules work. So if you go straight for a sample B, they have to announce it. Or if you have an upcoming fight that it has to be pulled out, then it will, because a lot of people have been saying, how come they haven't said anything prior to that? So let's say if I had a fight coming up and this had happened, they were going to have to say, look, this has happened because this got a violation. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, how come it only came out now when this thing has been going on for so long? But it's just procedure. So she told me that since you are sponsored by Biogen and you did use supplements throughout your campaign, throughout that week and the day of the fight, rather take down all those supplements that you took and go test them, because there is a clause through contaminated products where it does happen that some products are contaminated or mislabeled. Let's say this water that I'm drinking here, you check everything that's on the label, but then you find out when you test there's something that it hasn't been shown.
Sure, and I think there was a couple of cases internationally where a lot of this stuff came to light. Obviously, John Jones is the biggest one. And I remember listening to Chael Sonnen actually was speaking about it, and he was saying that the madness in supplements can boil down to, let's say, for example, we'll use Biogen are making a testosterone tablet that's all above board, but they're using the same laboratory or same manufacturing premises as another company that's maybe not using legitimate stuff. And just the mere fact of those like tablet housings rolling on the same belt can contaminate a supplement.
Yeah.
So it's small margins of stuff, you know what I mean? And it's those things do happen. And the reality is, I don't think people obviously want to lean towards the negative stuff, but it's the reality is these things happen, and it's not unique to you. It's not unique to South Africa, and it's not unique to MMA.
I think because also the sport, the way it's growing, I think a lot of things that have happened, people are still like very skeptical, but
Sure.
I'm not the first guy that this has happened to, and the way some people are calling it a conspiracy, which isn't, you know. There's a few, if you do your research, there's a lot of athletes worldwide that were victims to contaminated products, and it's just, I think maybe even a lot of athletes are using stuff that, because they haven't been tested, they don't know that they're actually taking something that is banned.
Sure.
I've been the most tested athlete in EFC for the last 7 years.
Sure.
So I knew I was gonna, and I got tested as well that year out of competition. So there was no ways I'm gonna risk my career. You know, that's why I train so hard, because I want to be the best, and I'm not looking to take any shortcuts.
Sure. The next section, I just want to try and, if I can, and I'm going to try and explain it, and you can fill in the gaps if I miss out, is on the actual testing process.
Yes.
Just briefly so people can understand. So basically it's governed by SAIDS, like we said. It's a separate entity. It's actually a governmental entity that's funded by the government. They get their own funding. EFC doesn't pay them to do these tests.
No.
They take the knock on they pay for it themselves financially, and it's, I mean, you'll know now, these tests are not, it's not a couple of $100 that you're coughing out.
Quite costly,
you know what I mean? It's a hell of a costly thing. So these guys are testing meticulously, and they've got a set system. Now, SAIDS in South Africa, which is Drug Free Sport South Africa, is sanctioned by WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Association.
That's correct, yeah.
So, and I think this is very important for people to understand. The way we are tested here as athletes in MMA in South Africa is exactly the same as USADA in UFC.
Yeah.
The process, the procedures, the allowances, the systems are all exactly the same. So there's no deviation in saying, oh yeah, but that's the UFC. It's exactly the same. The process is exactly the same. So let's take you, for example. You would have been approached after the fight saying, look, this is the identification, whoever, the guy from SAIDS, we need to take your samples. Am I right in saying then they give you like 3 sets of testing kits? You choose your testing kit. So it's completely random. You got 90 mils. You give a urine, and you, like you said, that's A, and you pour 60 mils or whatever it is out into the B sample. It's all sealed. It's to the T. Every detail that happens there is given. You're given an opportunity to fill out a form, what you've taken, and I read in your case, obviously they said that there was something that there were a few things that you didn't disclose. You did disclose, but you didn't give the full detail. You didn't say biogen, You just said, I've taken a form of testosterone, a form of this, a form of that. Because, I mean, you just had a 5-round fight. You know, you can't give every single detail of exactly what's happened for the last 10 weeks or whatever it may be. So the whole point of that is for people to understand the process is very meticulous, and it's very legitimate, and it's very well thought out, and there's no opportunity for you to say to somebody, listen, Paul, like, you know, I was taking something, here's a couple of bucks from my fight shorts that I was keeping during the fight.
Chances
you know,
of that, they're very slim.
You know what I mean? So I think first and foremost, it's very important for fans especially to realize that the testing we are doing here is a world standard. It's not a thing that the EFC have created. It's a world standard of testing, and it's like everywhere else in the world. The same people that are testing Lance Armstrong, that brought down Lance Armstrong, the same people working, it's the same people. They all know each other, you know what I mean? Mr. Khalid Golan, from the CEO of SAIDS, confers with USADA overseas. These guys are working
and even
together.
their prosecutors, they constantly going overseas to through their conferences and how anti-doping, and throughout the world they're trying to like stop that kind of stuff. So it's absolutely no joke, and I think if upcoming athletes, not just in MMA but in all other sports that you actually get tested, you have to be very cautious.
Sure.
Because they don't care, they just follow procedure.
No, sure. Okay, so with that side being said, your next step was there. You obviously had to prepare for a legal case, in essence, now to go. So you had to now send the supplements that you were using off for testing.
Yes.
Did you have to pay for that?
Yes, I had
and
to pay
roughly
for
what did that end up costing you personally?
Per sample was 500 rand, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. 500. Yeah, it was 500 rand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to now find that evidence on your own, and it's
Yeah.
like a hit and miss situation. You're
So,
sending and hoping.
so basically, the hardest part was I had contacted a lot of labs throughout South Africa, and I went to the CSIR. I contacted labs in Cape Town. I tried to contact labs in the UK, and it's extremely hard to find companies that actually test supplements.
Sure.
And afterwards, we had found out that the Bloom Lab was accredited again as underwater,
Yeah.
because there was a stage that they were not accredited anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when that had happened, I spoke to them and they said, you know what, we can test your supplements, but we're not allowed to test individual stuff just out of the blue. You have to get it through SAIDS.
Okay.
So I was speaking to Femi Gallant, which is the general manager of SAIDS, and I had spoken to him. I said, look, I'd using these supplements and I'd like to get them tested, but they want permission from SAIDS to actually test those products. So then after we got that permission, I paid for the tests to be done, and I bought sealed bottles of the products that I use in a similar batch, and I sent my products and those products as well. And yeah, and the results came back that the exact substance that was found in my urine sample was found in that supplement, and it showed why my test levels were elevated.
Okay. So then onto the case. That's obviously your biggest mitigating circumstance. You've got to go. So again, the process is quite simple. Once you flagged, they suspend you from all competitions straight away.
So how I think to the best of my knowledge is this. Let's say like Tumisama Madiba, right? You get an optional suspension and a provisional suspension. Let's say like with his case where it was cannabis, he's given the option to actually take the suspension because this substance is not banned out of competition. So maybe somehow he smoked way before he competed. So maybe then it was still in the system for some odd reason. So then they can give you that option to say, okay, I'll take this suspension or not.
Okay.
But because the substance, which was a pro-hormone, which is a pro-hormone, androsten, is banned in and out of competition. So they give you a provisional suspension straight away as soon as you get that notification, which was on the 15th of Feb. So when that had happened, I was already suspended till you have your hearing. Then they decide to the further suspension. And how it works basically, in normal law, you are innocent until you prove. Yeah, I mean you're innocent until you're proven guilty. This is the other way around. You're guilty until you prove how guilty you are. So then the two factors involved are intent, which equals cheating, and negligence.
Yeah.
So then that's what I had to prove. Did I intend to cheat? Because it was a contaminated product, obviously there was no intention to cheat. But were you negligent when you used that specific product? Did you search the label? Where did you get it from? Did you just get it from the street corner? I'm a sponsored athlete. I got it from my sponsors. And I've been taking those products for all my career, and I've been testing all my career.
Sure.
And so all that played a part in showing that there was no intention and I was not negligent in any way when I'd consumed those products.
Yeah, and there's a point there because I think that they basically give you 4 years off the bat. That's the general procedure, and then you've got to kind of
bring it
show
down,
all of these steps till they bring it down. And every time you have the conversation about Demarte, Pena now, the first thing that comes up is, but Cole Henning got 4 years.
Yeah.
But then you ask somebody, but why did he get 4 years? Do you know why? And they're like, the facts of the matter is that he could not prove his intent or any negligence there. He had no case, and he was from what I understand, he didn't do any due diligence.
So basically, let's say, if I look at this water bottle, right? Let's say, just a matter of let's say potassium is, let's say it's banned from competition.
Sure.
So then this bottle of water that I'm holding right now, and I don't look at the label itself. That's how I believe Cole Henning was. And I drink this water bottle, and I go and compete, right? Then afterwards you're flagged because there's this substance in your system.
Sure.
But then you come and say, oh, I didn't know that there was potassium here because my trainer gave me this bottle.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Sure.
That's basically how I understand our bodies.
You as the athlete have the
The
responsibility.
onus is on you.
Sure.
Yes, the onus is on you to make sure that you take whatever you have to speak to your doctor if, let's say, they're giving you anything, or if you are sick for anything, that they have to know that you are an athlete and certain substances are not allowed to be on your system.
Sure.
And if you have some chronic disease, you need to get a permission from SAIDS so that they can allow you to actually use that specific substance.
Sure.
So they're very, very, very strict.
Yeah.
That's I think the thing that a lot of people don't understand. So with my case was that straight away it's a 4-year ban.
Yeah.
But then if you can prove contamination, the maximum becomes 2 years. Then through that, if you show there's no significant fault, no negligence, then you just get a reprimand.
Sure.
Yeah, which I got a reprimand.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a nice example Mr. Khalid Galant gave me from SAIDS. There was an incident in South Africa, a guy who won the Comrades a little while back. It actually became quite a famous story. He failed his test, and he was like, but he also, he couldn't understand, and he started thinking in his mind that somebody had given him a contaminated energy aid along the route of the Comrades, and he went back and showed camera footage of, I don't know exactly how it happened, but he basically nailed it down to camera footage of the Comrades where someone had given him the said drink, and that was what was contaminated.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, so this is the broad spectrum of possibilities when it comes to testing.
Funny enough, now if you there was this now last there was a race now. What's it called? I forgot the name.
Which one?
There were it played recently. Where was it? I forgot the exact place, where if you watch all the runners, when they give them water, they don't actually drink it anymore.
Yeah,
they just pour on their face and
it was not the Comrades. It was pretty recent.
It was the Comrades. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes from. I'm pretty sure that's why people don't trust it.
Yeah. So now they specific places where they actually drink that specific water, but there are other places like some random people, they just pour it on their face and the bodies, because those things never happen. And there was another case in I think in the US where the water in that area had a banned substance.
Yeah.
So the athlete told I think it was USADA that he doesn't use anything, so he has no idea what it could be. So after a long research, they found out that the water had a banned substance. So it's like now, also for me now, like what do I do? Because you obviously want to trust the supplements that you're taking because you know that they are safe. What do you do now? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, it's so hard. Like, the problem, I think the biggest problem is this, there needs to be a governing body that like if you make medicine, where there's the medicine board and FDA and that kind of stuff that regulates this kind of stuff. Because in terms of you as an athlete, you know, you feel like you need a protein shake, maybe you're not eating it as well, or the source. There needs to be somebody that can go to the supplement companies and hold them to account. You say you can't just put anything in your products and sell it on the shelf. And imagine someone with some certain disease that just takes that product and aggravates it or makes them even worse. So I mean, who's going to be accountable for that? So it's like it's hard. You know what I'm saying?
No, sure, 100%. The supplement industry is just like a mammoth thing on its own, and it's very difficult. And when I asked Khalid Galan from SAIDS, what would you advise young athletes with supplements? And his answer was simple: don't take them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And look, I wish it was that easy. I mean, guys. Also, I think the casual fans that will say, "Oh, you know, you're a cheater and you're looking for an advantage and stuff like that." I don't think they truly understand just how grueling it is what you're doing on a daily basis. So it's not trying to get an edge. You're looking for a clean, safe supplement to help you recover or to help protein development in your body for muscle development, to help your weight, things like that. You know what I mean? No one's trying to get an edge anywhere, and that's what people don't understand. And I think that's very important. You know what I mean? To go through 4, 5, 6 hours of training in a day and still trying to have a normal life from there. Go home to your wife and be functional and be proactive and hold the conversation and do all of these things that other human beings have to do. You know what I mean?
So I think the funniest thing for me was, when Syed tweeted, "Oh, you use these products and blah blah blah," and "Oh, you juicing for days." I mean, that's so false, because those products, they're safe. Well, to the best of your knowledge, they're safe.
Sure.
It's like, why are you eating clean and you having like, you eating the best kind of meat and the veggies because, oh no, you want an advantage, but you're allowed to do that because you have a healthy lifestyle. It's not like if you have a burger and you eat clean normally. Let's say you have a burger throughout the week and you go spa, you're gonna feel worse off when you're eating junk than what you're eating. So as an athlete, you need to make sure that you're taking the right things, and you obviously trust the brands that you choose to trust, and it's a lot harder now knowing that there's no even a body that governs the labeling of the supplement. So they could say anything in there. So that's the most worrying part. I think after all this has happened, and what I've learned from this process is that you can't trust any supplement.
Yeah, and I think it's quite important, because the way I understand how the supplements are tested is like some supplements will have a stamp to say that they've been batch tested, which means that there was 500 tons of protein powder, 100 kilos were tested, you know what I mean, and they were safe. But we don't know what happened to the rest of it, you know what I mean? So
and now there's also the Informed Sports, I don't know if you have seen that logo. So now these products, they put Informed Sport, but then there were many cases overseas, and I think also in South Africa, where it's not even Informed Sport, and they just put that logo in there. So it's like, so now you're telling me that use Informed Sport. Meanwhile, the brands are using Informed Sport, but there's no one is actually putting them to account. So I think as an athlete, you are mostly at risk, and it's just the reality that we have to face now, unless there's actually a governing body that regulates that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Geez, it's tough times for athletes. Let's put it like that. We touched on one or two things there. Obviously, Urshad will feel that he's just as affected as us, in a way. He's come out obviously quite strong, but I think that's his character. I do, to a sense, understand what he's trying to do and what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
How do you react to that? Let's talk about it from a fighter's point of view. Obviously, you're still the champ of your division.
Mm-hmm.
He's now, again, the interim champ of the division. He's got a lot to say at the moment. And if it's not in the fight game, you're like, geez, dude, maybe it's a little bit harsh. Like, let's just hear it out, how it all plays out. But I mean, it's the fight game, and I suppose these are the things that happen. So he's come out quite strong. How do you react to that? How do you deal with that mentally?
I think for Syed, obviously, he would be happy because, he can validate his loss now. And I think with him, the fight was mostly a stand-up fight, and I don't think there's appeal for skill. You actually have to be a skilled fighter, and I've shown my skill on that night, and I fought him in the feet and on the ground. So it wasn't a physical fight where you can say no because you're the understeam and your test levels were so high and this and that. But obviously I respect the laws of Said, and that's what it is, and it's unfortunate that it happened. I think he's just trying to now tarnish my image, trying to do that, not just so that he can feel bad about himself. He seems that kind of guy. It is what it is. I mean, I don't live for Syed. I have my own life to take care of. So it had happened, and funny enough, I spoken to Graham before they told him about the results, and I said to Graham, I said, look, let's already then get this fight set with Syed before he knows anything. Then Graham spoke to him, and Syed refused the fight. He said no, he's not ready to fight, so he feels it's too small and he wants to get bigger and so. And now after he heard that, now he's like thinking, I don't know what he's thinking, like the fight was, so that's why I think he didn't badmouth anymore, because say, oh, but fight me again. So I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do, but I'm not gonna wait for Syed. If the fight happens. If it doesn't happen, I mean, I'm gonna move on with my life. I got family to take care of, and that's the most important thing. So we'll see what opportunities are open. You know, I'm just grateful that I can compete again, and I'm back in doing what I love.
Sure. Just with regards to the whole outcome of your case, so they basically made that bout a no contest,
That's correct. Yeah.
gave him back his interim belt. So for me, it kind of says, okay, you unknowingly had some sort of advantage because you had this stuff running through your veins,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they kind of made that a no contest. Do you agree with that, firstly, and do you think that's quite a fair, can we say, punishment? Or I don't want to say punishment because you didn't really do anything wrong, but do you think that it's a fair outcome of how they declared it? So basically saying you unknowingly and unwillingly had some sort of advantage in you, so we have to make that fight a no contest.
So basically, I think it's Article number 9 in the SAID's rules. If there's a violation of their rules, basically that contest becomes, I mean, a no contest, like it never happened before. So that's procedural. I don't know if every case should be done that way, where it's automatically becomes a no contest. It is. I mean, you put in so much work, and things like this happen. I mean, it's frustrating as an athlete. You put in all those hours, and now because of this specific thing, now he wants to now act like he didn't really lose, but he lost. But then now you say because of that. So I mean, like I said, there are rules that you as an athlete you have to abide by, and unfortunately, this thing had happened, and thank goodness that it was dealt with, and I was able to prove my innocence. And yeah, I mean, I think in this case, I mean, rules are rules, and we have to follow them. So it is fair to what had happened.
Sure. Okay, so we spoke about Urshaw, that was one thing, and then earlier on we touched on the conspiracy.
Yeah.
And this has been one of my favorites, to be honest, and I don't know where people come up with these things, but anyway, let's have a go at it. So obviously the conspiracy that we're referring to is from what I understand, some people tend to think that you've gotten some sort of special treatment because of your influence with Angola and MMA in Angola and broadcasting and all of these things, which is again, like I say, for me it's very strange because I understand the system. You know what I mean? That's like for what people are hinting at, saying like, look, no, Demarte got let off easy here because of his influence in Angola, is like saying that they, it's like saying that why didn't they do the same to John Jones then? You know what I'm saying? Because his division is crying for him. Why don't they just be like, oh no, it's fine, you can
he's
come
an
back and
international superstar. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so how do you react to something like that? Because my reaction is quite like, the first time I heard somebody say that to me, I was quite dumbstruck. I was like, how is that? It's not even possible. If you just think about what you're saying. Like,
I think, geez, if you look at like even tennis, like Sharapova and those guys are multi-millionaires.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yet you're gonna, if you break the laws and you don't prove that you are innocent and that sort, or you actually use a product it's banned, you're gonna get a ban. There's no, funny enough, leading up to the case, I'd read up on a lot about different cases where there was a young girl, I think she was 15 or so, I think she was the dancer or something like that. Her mom gave her something, I don't know if it's because of they traveled and her foot got swollen, so she took something to make the swelling go down or something along those lines. And the mom, I don't think she knew that there was a banned substance in it.
Sure.
Then the young girl said, no, my mom gave me this, I didn't know. But if you say you don't know, they don't care. So there's no special treatment. They follow rules, and the rules were followed in this same case where it was shown to be a contamination and shown that there was no intention and no negligence, or mild or no significant negligence. So that's why I managed to get the reprimand. So I think it's very dangerous when guys like Sayed and all these people give this impression, because it doesn't show how serious the situation is, not just for me and for many other athletes out there that have faced such a thing. I think it's very dangerous for people to put this false information out there, because these things are happening to many athletes, and the people need to be very, very cautious.
Sure.
Because you're gonna get a big ban if you don't watch out what you're taking.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's strangely enough to say, it's kind of a situation where I think a lot of athletes can learn. You know what I mean? Because it's that kind of scenario when you read it. Like for me personally, I had to like double take and read like, come on, Demarte Pena is not using banned substances. It can't be. You know what I mean? It's just one of those scenarios you're like, no, man. Like, we see you putting in the work, you know what I mean? And nobody talks about that, and that's frustrating, you know what I mean? Nobody's saying, but this is a guy who's putting in the work day in and day out. Like every other major athlete that's trying to get to the top, he's putting in the work, you know what I mean? So I agree with you. It's like I said, I understand Irshad's side, and I understand what he's doing, and he's obviously, I'm sure emotionally he's quite struck up by it. He sees it that, you know, he sees it his way, and that's his thing. That's his thing, cool, you know what I mean? But we've also got to acknowledge the facts, you know, that you're on top of your game, and I'm pretty sure you've got intentions to get even higher, you know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
And you're a smart guy. You're not gonna do stupid things like use banned substances. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. You know what I mean? So
and also I think what the panel took to, because the hearing itself is quite long.
Sure.
So that's what I think. It's only one of those things when it actually happens to you or to somebody that you know of, and you follow the process, that you understand how grueling it is. Yeah, I think it's very important for the fans to understand that there's procedures that need to be followed, and the guidelines set by WADA and SAIDS, where these professionals follow, you know, doctors and specialists in industry and lawyers who are there to support your lie. And there's a prosecutor there questioning you. So when people come up with this, oh, but how can it be? How can you use this product? But obviously he's trying to get an advantage. But rules are rules, and there was no product that I was taking when I'd done my due diligence that had any banned substances, or I had any reason to believe that it could have been contaminated. And those products were basically like, instead of you eating a burger, you're actually eating a salad, in a sense, where you're trying to find a way so that your body can work up in an optimum state. So you're not trying to cheat, you're just trying to do something that's within the rules. I think it's important for fans to actually take the time to actually read the rules and find out better, instead of just making comments that have no basis, you know.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, look at the evidence that's in front of you. You know what I mean? You don't have to go too far to kind of assemble. You know. It's I think social media obviously always has its part to play. Like, it's this modern day mass hysteria where everyone just jumps on the bandwagon.
Yeah, everyone is a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, sure. But so where are you and Biogen now at the moment?
At the moment, they're not my sponsors anymore.
Okay, so that's cut out. And what is your status with the EFC? You're free to compete now?
Yes, so I'm completely free and back in competition, yeah.
Okay. So that obviously leads to the question is, what's next for Demarte Pena?
Yeah. I mean, we had offered the fight for September in Cape Town to Syed, and he refused the fight. For reasons I'm not 100% certain of. He stated that he could only fight in November. It's quite a while, so we'll see. But then for me now, I need to ask the FC to fight sooner, but they don't want to give me another fight besides Syed. So I'll see what I can do, but I'm not going to just be waiting for Syed.
Okay. And with that in mind, obviously we touched on it earlier. You're obviously a guy, well, in my mind, that's obviously striving to. You obviously have overseas intentions. I'm sure, you know, the UFC must be in your mind somewhere. You're undefeated. You've protected that title for some time. So, is that a fair assumption to say that you do have the likes of the UFC in mind in your career?
Yeah, I think. Well, I can speak. I think for a lot of MMA athletes, that's the goal that we all want to achieve.
Sure.
And I think for me now, in UFC, I've done, I mean, besides this thing that had happened now, I mean, every single challenge I'd faced, I'd overcome, and if I fight Syed again, I'm 100% certain that I'm gonna win again. And yeah, and I think the next thing is for me to try and go train overseas a bit more, get more exposed to that level, and who knows, get maybe another opportunity there to compete. If not in the UFC, another promotion.
Sure.
But with the UFC, I'll still gladly fight here if need be. But then it can't be every year I fight once or twice, you know. So we'll see. I mean, now this opportunity had come, and I wanted to fight now, September, maybe fight again at the end of the year. They didn't. They were not happy with that, so we'll see. I mean, but I'm not gonna wait for Syed. I mean, it's just it's not just a phase of my life. It's not,
Sure.
you know. So he makes a big deal out of me more than I think I make of him. So it is what it is. I mean, I have to move on with my life.
And do you think that this case brings up alarm bells for overseas promotions, where they're looking to be like, well, what's this story here with the doping?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? That I cannot speak for anybody else, but I cannot shy from it because it had happened, and
Sure.
I'm not going to go home and hide under the bed, hoping that. I mean, there's worse things that happen in life to worse things than this, and I'm just glad that I was able to prove that I'm not a cheater, and I respect the rules, and I've shown that I haven't intended to cheat, nor I was negligent. So
Sure.
I think going forward, I just have to focus on getting better as a fighter, trying to improve my skill, and just compete more. And I'm certain that I will be tested again when I fight and out of competition, which I've taken even further, you know, caution than before, which I thought I was doing the right thing. But it just shows that there's a lot of people that you can't trust, and you have to be even more careful
Sure.
than
Sure.
going forward.
Yeah, it's tough out there with everything you guys have to do, man, and keep note of. I don't envy you. I can't even remember what I did yesterday. what
Yeah.
I drank and ate, you know. So just in conclusion, I just want to brush over everything that we've discussed for the naysayers more than anything. I think is that the process that happens is done in South Africa the same way it's done overseas. The EFC athletes are tested the same as UFC athletes are tested. The judiciary that's held that decides your fate has nothing to do with the EFC. It's a pile of private people that are assembled from different corners of the sporting industry. They don't know who you are.
Yeah,
you don't know
they had
who
no
they
idea
are.
what it was. Yeah.
They cannot be influenced in any way by anybody. So this whole conspiracy of you getting a lesser treatment is, you know, I think people need to really let that go. I don't think it's possible, you know. Just let's admire the work a little bit. I think is what I would say to people. Let's be thankful that we have a champion of your caliber still able to compete. I think that's more important, and that would be my message to people, and that's my fight with people, is to say let's look at Demarte as a person, you know, that we know, that we can see, you know what I mean. Is he the kind of guy that's gonna look for an advantage when he's been unbeaten for so long? What advantage does he need? You know what I mean? Is there pressure on his career coming up? Who's threatening his career? There's no. If people just sit back and think about what's going on in front of them, I think they'll find the answers for themselves, to be honest. And I'm for one grateful that we have a champion of your caliber that's still able to compete.
Thank
And
you,
we haven't lost the title, and we haven't had to now watch you sit for 2 years on the sidelines. You know what I mean? And I think we should, as fans, we should be appreciative of that fact, that you were so meticulous in the way you do things, that you were able to fight these things. And I can guarantee you in years to come that many athletes coming up will perhaps even get in contact with you and say, look, Demarte, this has happened. Please, can you help me? You know what I mean? Can you point me in the direction, and so on?
Funny enough, that has happened already, like a few times. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I wouldn't wish to my enemy, to be in a process like this, especially in a case where you completely don't know. I mean, if you know that you took something, I mean, you're gonna get banned.
Sure.
That's it.
Well, Demarte, at the end of the day, like I said, we've got a high caliber champ that's able to compete, and I think that's the most important thing that fans can take away. You know what I mean? And I think we've cleared up some nice ground. I think people can listen to this and kind of say, you know, well, now we've heard it from the proverbial horse's mouth, let's say, you know.
Yeah.
So people can understand exactly what you went through, and very important thing to understand, it's a massive toll on you personally, and you've had to endure a lot. You've had to endure this process. That's your career, that's your life, that's your livelihood as it is, and obviously the personal attacks on it that came with it as well. And I just want to say to fans, let's support the athletes rather than jump on bandwagons, and let's hope for the best, because our sport needs champions like yourself, and we need you guys competing, and we hope to see you in action very soon, whether it's Urshad. I'm not complaining about that fight, if I'm honest. But whoever it is, as long as we see you competing, and I'm pretty sure we'll see you go even further from there, man. And I just want to take this time to thank you very much for coming through and giving up some of your time. And it takes a strong personality to come and sit and answer the questions. So I appreciate it very much, and I wish you all the best, man.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, man.
Pleasure, man. And you have a good evening.
And
We're
you too.
out.
Cheers.